What's going on, everyone? Gilman with Live All These Stocks, back with our weekly Apple update video where we'll take a look at how Apple stock traded this past week, some key news that came out related to Apple and the partnership with Hyundai, and we'll also take a look at kind of some key things that I think will be pretty important as we get closer to earnings season. And then we'll also take a look at future levels of support and resistance for the stock to try to see if we can get an idea of where the stock could be headed. So real quick, if you enjoy videos like this, hit that like button down below, subscribe to my channel if you are new, and comment down below what your thoughts on Apple are, and I'd love to chat with you guys down in the comment section. So let me hit record. We will get right into it. So let's first and foremost go and just cover some key pieces of news on what kind of happened with Apple stock this past week, as well as some things that I'm focusing on as we get closer to earnings, and then we'll take a look at kind of the stock side of things in the second half of this video. So first things first, as I'm sure a lot of you guys saw, Apple and Hyundai agree on an electric car kind of production plan, if you will, later this year. So they plan to sign a partnership on autonomous electric cars by March and start production as early as 2024. So I know a couple weeks ago we saw news around the Apple Car kind of revamping talks again. They've talked about it a couple times before, but it's always gotten shuttered down. This time it seems a little bit more promising, right? It's coming out with more kind of concrete. I mean, if they have a partnership with Hyundai, we're talking about an actual car maker, and that could mean a potential car coming in 2024. But that's going to come by March. Now I was waiting to see. We got this news on Thursday, so I was waiting to see if we got anything, based on that on Friday. We didn't with Apple, but I was reading somewhere that Hyundai stock rose, so we'll kind of see how that goes. But I think it'll be really interesting to kind of see, okay, what happens as we get more pieces of information if they do sign it in March. I know that that's a couple months down the line, but still what the impact of that could be on the stock, right? So that'll be really interesting to see. The other thing that I really want to focus on is, Apple's change towards the services that they focused on in the past couple of years. So that includes App Store, that includes their Fitness Plus, that includes Apple Music, and all the other things that they're basically doing. That's not just iPhone, iPad, and MacBook sales. So wanted to quickly cover this. So this is an article that was published a couple of days ago as well. Their App Store grossed more than $64 billion in 2020, which is up from $50 billion in 2019 and $48 billion in 2018. Now, this growth, a lot of it is largely related to the coronavirus pandemic. And I'm not saying that they're going to continue growing at this pace, but just goes to show how much of an advantage that Apple has had and how much growth that they've had with this growth in the year 2020 and how that could push forward in 2021, as a lot of homes or a lot of places are still people being stuck at home, schools being done from home, and kind of that stuff. So they grew 28% in 2020 after a 3.1 growth in 2019. So even if they were able to continue this 2 to 3% growth, back to that, I think that revenue number that we have and that being our baseline would be kind of amazing to see, right? Because it means 10-ish billions more dollars per quarter. The other thing that I want to focus on is the earnings season coming up, right? So that is something that I've talked about, because typically what we have is we have the iPhones coming out in September. You could place a pre-order, so we get those number in that quarter, and then October, November, December, the last quarter of the year, is where we see more iPhone sales, sure, but a majority of them come during the holiday season, right? So what happened this year, though, is the October timeframe is when the actual iPhone came out, which means two things, right? It means that the initial pre-orders and the holiday sales were all during the same quarter, but also you compare that with the fact that it's the first 5G iPhone, which a lot of analysts are expecting it to be a super cycle, right? Where in the past couple of years people weren't upgrading to the iPhone because it was just slightly better camera, slightly better processor, and all that good stuff. But this time we're talking about an actual upgrade, right? So let's take a look at this article, because this is more focusing on Foxconn. And this is really interesting to see because Foxconn is a major supplier of Apple, right? They're the assembler of Apple iPhones that you and I use on a daily basis. So it'll be really interesting to see what this article says, right? So so a couple months ago also, we saw that they were raising productions in 2021 by 20 to 30%. And so that story combined with what we're about to read here kind of gives a really nice growth point for Apple iPhone sales. So Foxconn, formerly known as Han High Precision Industry Co., beat analyst expectations, right? And this is thanks to the robust demand for Apple Inc.'s new 5G devices. Their sales in December were $25 billion. Revenue was at a record as well. And they are the sole assembler of the iPhone 12 Pro and Pro Max. They are expecting continued growth across 2021 despite the ongoing impact of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, Tim Cook has said in the past, don't really read into the supply chain that much, but when you're talking about someone like Foxconn, that is the sole maker of the iPhone 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max, which we are already expecting to be a monster kind of seller for Apple, then, it just goes to show you that this could mean a great quarter for Apple. That's something that I wanted to cover from kind of the away from the stock side. Now let's take a look at the stock side and how it's traded and how it continues to do. So if we go here from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so the previous 5 days, what we saw was a start here on Monday, and we were kind of above this 133.40s level, and we sold off pretty big, and then we kind of rebounded a little bit to the 129s level. We broke into this level, but couldn't really get above this. Gapped down a little, went up and sold off exactly everything that we had gained. Then, the past 2 days we've kind of seen a little bit of more of a steadier climb over the last 2 days. So not too bad of a week for Apple overall. We did go from kind of opening in the 133s to closing in the 131.75, so slightly red on the week for Apple, but overall, considering everything going on, it wasn't too bad of a week. So let's take a look at the daily chart and we'll kind of see what we see. Right. So the reason that a lot of big tech, if we take a look at Amazon as well, right, had a couple red days is because with the Democrats in office, there are kind of concerns of them having some antitrust issues or having issues with big tech, having too much power and potential to pass legislation that could potentially break some of these companies up. So that was some of the reasoning behind some of the fall that happened this week. So let's take a look at what has happened. So as you can see in the past 2 days, right, from Wednesday to Thursday and Friday, we've made higher highs, higher lows. Even though we have a red candle there, what we'll see is, still making a higher high and a higher low. So that's something that we like to see. If you saw here from 12/29 until January 6th, we were making lower highs every day, in many cases making lower highs, lower lows. We were talking about a consolidation period that was happening and us finding kind of that base before we could start to push back up. So this week will be really interesting because, as I said, right, everything I shared, I'm bullish on Apple going into the future, going into earnings, especially this quarter. So what are we expecting from Apple? Well, we've got a bunch of sort of levels here that we've identified as levels of support and resistance. So if we were to go down, let me get our EMAs for us too, right? If we were to go down, the first level of support that I see is in the 8 EMA at 130.86, and then we've got this 130.24 level that held up a couple times on Friday, this past Friday. The next level we have is the 21 EMA at 128.92, and then the next level of support we have is this 126, mid 126s. On the upside, I'd like to see the stock push towards 133.45 and then 136.05 after that, which would clear the way for this all-time high, right? So on the upside, 133.45. Then we technically have this high over here of 134.74 before we get to that 136.05 level, but that sets us up for all-time high. Now, I would like to see the stock doing that in the next couple of weeks, right? Making a new all-time high as we run into the earnings season. It's hit this 138 level twice. So if we go back here and kind of draw, I'm not going to draw this line just yet, right? But if we take a look here, the high there was 137.98 and the high here was 138.79. So are we making a double top there? That'll be something that, we're kind of going to have to watch as we get there to see if it gets rejected by this all-time high again. And it's just not something that it's able to break, or if we are able to break through that and set a new high, which is what I'm hoping for and anticipating moving into the rest of this month. So that'll be really interesting to see. I personally, again, this is just my opinion, make sure to do your own research before you get into Apple. Unless we see some really bad news, I think the 21 EMA for me would be kind of the lowest we could see Apple go for a little bit, right? Even here you see When it closed at 126.60, the next day we kind of came right back above the 21 EMA. If we go back here, right, we've bounced off of the 21 EMA on 12.10, and we were below it, but since November 30th, we haven't really been below the 21 EMA. That's what I'm watching for, right? That would be, hopefully, to me, the lowest that Apple goes. But, you know, hopefully we either push up from here, or we maybe take a little bit of step back, go back to visit this low 130s level before starting to push back up, or go to the 21 EMA before starting to push back up. So either push up, go back here, or go back down to the 21 EMA before pushing up. Those are kind of the three things that I see. But, you know, hoping for us to set a new all-time high sometime in the month of January as we have that run into earnings season. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like, subscribe to my channel, comment down below what your thoughts on Apple are, and I'd love to chat with you guys down there. Let's remember to be a bit better every single day, and until next time.